Lisa Murphy stood at the observation window of the Colony Administration Building, watching the morning sun rise over the wheat fields of New Harvest. The golden light painted the rolling hills in warm colors, and she could see the automatic harvesters moving slowly through the crops. It was a peaceful scene that had greeted her every morning for the past 3 years since she became the colony administrator. But this morning felt different. The communication array had been picking up strange signals since yesterday, and her technical team could not figure out what they meant. The signals came from deep space, somewhere beyond their solar system. They were getting stronger. "Lisa, you need to see this," called Amy Rodriguez from the communications center. Amy was the best communications officer they had, and her voice carried a tone that made Lisa's stomach tighten with worry. Lisa walked quickly across the main floor of the building. The Colony Administration Center was not large, but it served as the heart of their small world. From here, they managed everything, from crop schedules to weather monitoring. The building buzzed with the quiet activity of people going about their daily work. "What is it, Amy?" Lisa asked as she approached the communications station. Amy was staring at her screens with wide eyes, her hands moving quickly over the controls. "The signals we detected yesterday, they are not random. Look at this pattern." Amy pointed to her main screen, where waves of light moved in regular pulses. "This is organized communication. Someone is talking out there." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. New Harvest was far from the main shipping routes. They rarely saw any ships except for the quarterly supply runs from Earth. The colony had been established here precisely because it was quiet and safe. "Could it be the supply ship arriving early?" Lisa asked, though she knew it was not time for their next delivery. Amy shook her head. "No. This is coming from the wrong direction. And Lisa, there are multiple sources. A lot of them." Before Lisa could respond, the building's alarm system began to sound. The loud warning tone echoed through every room, and red lights flashed on every wall. Lisa had only heard this alarm during their monthly safety drills. Jake Collins burst through the main door, still wearing his mining gear and covered in dirt from the excavation sites. Jake was the head of their mining operations, a big man with strong hands who had been on New Harvest since the beginning. "Lisa, you need to come outside right now," Jake said, breathing hard from running. "Something is happening in the sky." Lisa followed Jake outside, with Amy close behind them. Other colonists were already gathering in the main square, all looking up at the sky and pointing. What Lisa saw made her heart stop. The sky was full of ships. They were not like any ships Lisa had ever seen before. These vessels were huge, dark, and had strange shapes that hurt to look at. They moved in formation, blocking out parts of the sun as they passed overhead. There had to be dozens of them, maybe hundreds. "Where did they come from?" Amy whispered. "I don't know," Lisa replied, her voice barely audible. "Jake, get everyone to the emergency shelters. Now." Jake nodded and began shouting orders to the colonists. People started running toward the underground shelters that had been built when the colony was first established. These shelters were meant to protect them from severe weather or equipment failures. Lisa had never imagined they might need them for this. The alien ships continued to move across the sky, casting long shadows over the fields. Some of them were so large that they seemed to cover entire sections of the colony. Lisa could see lights blinking on their hulls, but she could not tell what they meant. "Lisa, I am getting transmissions," Amy said, holding a portable communication device. "It is not in any language I recognize." Then the first ship began to descend. It was smaller than the massive vessels still hanging in the sky, but it was still bigger than any building in the colony. The ship moved slowly downward, its engines creating a sound like thunder that rolled across the landscape. The ground shook under Lisa's feet. "Everyone get underground now!" Jake shouted, his voice carrying over the noise. Lisa watched as the alien ship settled into their main wheat field, crushing the crops beneath it. More ships were descending in other areas around the colony. She could see similar scenes happening at the mining facilities and the research stations. The ship's hull began to open, revealing a dark interior. Then figures began to emerge. The aliens were tall and thin, wearing what looked like armor that gleamed in the morning sunlight. They carried weapons that looked advanced and dangerous. Even from a distance, Lisa could see that these beings were not here to make friends. "Lisa, we have to go," Amy urged, pulling at her arm. Lisa forced herself to move. They ran toward the nearest shelter entrance, where Jake was helping the last of the colonists get inside. The underground shelters were connected by tunnels and could hold the entire colony population if needed. As they reached the shelter entrance, Lisa heard the first sounds of weapons fire. Bright beams of light cut through the air, striking buildings and vehicles. Whatever these aliens were using for weapons, they were destroying everything they hit. Jake slammed the heavy door shut behind them as they entered the shelter. The space was filled with frightened colonists, families holding each other, and the sound of quiet crying. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. "How long can we stay down here?" someone asked. Jake checked the supply monitors. "We have food and water for maybe 2 weeks if we are careful. Air recycling should last longer than that." Lisa looked around at the faces of her people. These were farmers, scientists, engineers, and their families. They had come to New Harvest to build a new life, to grow food and study this world. None of them were soldiers. "What do they want?" asked Dr. Karen Mitchell, the colony's medical officer. "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "But we need to find out, and we need to figure out how to survive until help comes." If help comes, she thought, but did not say out loud. Above them, the sounds of destruction continued. The aliens were methodically destroying everything the colonists had built. Lisa wondered if their communication array was still working, if Amy would be able to send a distress signal. She wondered if anyone would hear it. The colony of New Harvest, which had been a symbol of human hope and determination just hours before, was now a target in what seemed to be a war they never saw coming. And in the darkness of their underground shelter, Lisa Murphy realized that their peaceful life was over. The dying light of their world had begun. Lisa Murphy stood at the observation window of the Colony Administration Building, watching the morning sun rise over the wheat fields of New Harvest. The golden light painted the rolling hills in warm colors, and she could see the automatic harvesters moving slowly through the crops. It was a peaceful scene that had greeted her every morning for the past 3 years since she became the colony administrator. But this morning felt different. The communication array had been picking up strange signals since yesterday, and her technical team could not figure out what they meant. The signals came from deep space, somewhere beyond their solar system. They were getting stronger. "Lisa, you need to see this," called Amy Rodriguez from the communications center. Amy was the best communications officer they had, and her voice carried a tone that made Lisa's stomach tighten with worry. Lisa walked quickly across the main floor of the building. The Colony Administration Center was not large, but it served as the heart of their small world. From here they managed everything, from crop schedules to weather monitoring. The building buzzed with the quiet activity of people going about their daily work. "What is it, Amy?" Lisa asked as she approached the communication station. Amy was staring at her screens with wide eyes, her hands moving quickly over the controls. "The signals we detected yesterday, they are not random. Look at this pattern." Amy pointed to her main screen, where waves of light moved in regular pulses. "This is organized communication. Someone is talking out there." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. New Harvest was far from the main shipping routes. They rarely saw any ships except for the quarterly supply runs from Earth. The colony had been established here precisely because it was quiet and safe. Could it be the supply ship arriving early? Lisa asked, though she knew it was not time for their next delivery. Amy shook her head. "No, this is coming from the wrong direction. And Lisa, there are multiple sources. A lot of them." Before Lisa could respond, the building's alarm system began to sound. The loud warning tone echoed through every room, and red lights flashed on every wall. Lisa had only heard this alarm during their monthly safety drills. Jake Collins burst through the main door, still wearing his mining gear and covered in dirt from the excavation sites. Jake was the head of their mining operations, a big man with strong hands who had been on New Harvest since the beginning. "Lisa, you need to come outside right now," Jake said, breathing hard from running. "Something is happening in the sky." Lisa followed Jake outside with Amy close behind them. Other colonists were already gathering in the main square, all looking up at the sky and pointing. What Lisa saw made her heart stop. The sky was full of ships. They were not like any ships Lisa had ever seen before. These vessels were huge, dark, and had strange shapes that hurt to look at. They moved in formation, blocking out parts of the sun as they passed overhead. There had to be dozens of them, maybe hundreds. "Where did they come from?" Amy whispered. "I don't know," Lisa replied, her voice barely audible. "Jake, get everyone to the emergency shelters, now." Jake nodded and began shouting orders to the colonists. People started running toward the underground shelters that had been built when the colony was first established. These shelters were meant to protect them from severe weather or equipment failures. Lisa had never imagined they might need them for this. The alien ships continued to move across the sky, casting long shadows over the fields. Some of them were so large that they seemed to cover entire sections of the colony. Lisa could see lights blinking on their hulls, but she could not tell what they meant. "Lisa, I am getting transmissions," Amy said, holding a portable communication device. "It is not in any language I recognize." Then the first ship began to descend. It was smaller than the massive vessels still hanging in the sky, but it was still bigger than any building in the colony. The ship moved slowly downward, its engines creating a sound like thunder that rolled across the landscape. The ground shook under Lisa's feet. "Everyone get underground now!" Jake shouted, his voice carrying over the noise. Lisa watched as the alien ship settled into their main wheat field, crushing the crops beneath it. More ships were descending in other areas around the colony. She could see similar scenes happening at the mining facilities and the research stations. The ship's hull began to open, revealing a dark interior. Then figures began to emerge. The aliens were tall and thin, wearing what looked like armor that gleamed in the morning sunlight. They carried weapons that looked advanced and dangerous. Even from a distance, Lisa could see that these beings were not here to make friends. "Lisa, we have to go," Amy urged, pulling at her arm. Lisa forced herself to move. They ran toward the nearest shelter entrance where Jake was helping the last of the colonists get inside. The underground shelters were connected by tunnels and could hold the entire colony population if needed. As they reached the shelter entrance, Lisa heard the first sounds of weapons fire. Bright beams of light cut through the air, striking buildings and vehicles. Whatever these aliens were using, for weapons, they were destroying everything they hit. Jake slammed the heavy door shut behind them as they entered the shelter. The space was filled with frightened colonists, families holding each other, and the sound of quiet crying. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. "How long can we stay down here?" someone asked. Jake checked the supply monitors. "We have food and water for maybe 2 weeks if we are careful. Air recycling should last longer than that." Lisa looked around at the faces of her people. These were farmers, scientists, engineers, and their families. They had come to New Harvest to build a new life, to grow food and study this world. None of them were soldiers. "What do they want?" asked Dr. Karen Mitchell, the colony's medical officer. "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "But we need to find out. And we need to figure out how to survive until Help Co. Amy Rodriguez crept through the maintenance tunnels beneath the colony, her heart pounding with every step. 3 days had passed since the aliens arrived, and she had been planning this mission. For all 3 of those days, the emergency communication array was located in a separate building from the main communications center, and if it was still working, it might be their only hope. The tunnels were dark and cramped, filled with pipes, and cables that carried power and water throughout the colony. Amy had studied these passages during her first week on New Harvest, never imagining she would need to use them to hide from alien invaders. Behind her, Jake Collins moved as quietly as his large frame would allow. He carried a small toolkit and a portable power unit. If the communication array had been damaged, Jake was their best hope of fixing it. "How much further?" Jake whispered. "Maybe 50 meters," Amy replied, checking the tunnel map on her tablet. "The access hatch should be right under the array building." They had waited until the aliens seemed to be resting. For the past 3 days, the creatures had maintained constant patrols during daylight hours, but they appeared to be less active at night. Lisa had finally agreed to let Amy and Jake attempt to send a distress signal. The other colonists remained in the underground shelters, surviving on emergency rations and recycled air. Food was already becoming a concern, and several children were getting sick from the stress and poor air quality. They needed help, and they needed it soon. Amy reached the access hatch and carefully opened it. Cool night air flowed down into the tunnel, carrying with it the smell of smoke and destruction. She climbed up slowly, with Jake following close, behind. The emergency communication building was small and utilitarian, designed to function independently of the main colony systems. Amy had insisted on this design when the colony was first established, arguing that they needed backup communication in case of emergencies. She had been right, but she wished she had been wrong. The building was damaged but still standing. Scorch. Marks covered the walls and several windows were broken, but the main equipment appeared intact. Amy moved quickly to the communication console and began running diagnostics. "The main transmitter is working," she whispered to Jake, "but the power coupling is damaged. Can you fix it?" Jake examined the damaged components with his flashlight. "Give me 10 minutes," he said, already pulling tools from his kit. Amy began, preparing the distress message while Jake worked. She knew it had to be short and clear. If the aliens detected the transmission, they would have only seconds before the building was destroyed. Through the broken windows, she could see the alien ships spread across their colony. The creatures had set up some kind of base in the main square, with bright lights and strange equipment. Patrols moved between the buildings, searching for any signs of human activity. Power is restored, Jake said quietly. If help comes, she thought, but did not say out loud. Above them, the sounds of destruction continued. The aliens were methodically destroying everything the colonists had built. Lisa wondered if their communication array was still working, if Amy would be able to send a distress signal. She wondered if anyone would hear it. The colony of New Harvest, which had been a symbol of human hope and determination just hours before, was now a target in what seemed to be a war they never saw coming. And in the darkness of their underground shelter, Lisa Murphy realized that their peaceful life was over. The dying light of their world had begun. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake sat in the quiet darkness of the Deep Space Communication Array station, monitoring the vast emptiness between the stars. The facility orbited Earth's moon, hidden on the far side where radio interference was minimal. It was a lonely job, but someone had to listen to the universe. Ryan had been on duty for 6 hours when the message arrived. The signal was weak and distorted, having traveled across countless light years to reach Earth. But the automated systems recognized the emergency pattern and immediately flagged it for attention. Computer, decode and enhance emergency transmission, Ryan ordered. The message played through the speakers with crackling static. This is New Harvest Colony requesting immediate assistance. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. Colony population approximately 800. Require immediate military intervention. Please respond. Ryan sat up straight in his chair. Emergency transmissions from the outer colonies were rare, and this one sounded desperate. He checked the signal analysis. The message had originated from the Kepler 442 system, over 300 light-years from Earth. Computer, analyze transmission origin and route, he commanded. The computer's response was concerning. Message routed through Galactic Council networks. Original transmission timestamp indicates message is 7 days old. 7 days. Ryan felt a chill as he realized how long the colonists had been waiting for help. He immediately opened a secure channel to Earth Defense Force headquarters. Earth Defense Command. This is Deep Space Array Station 7. I have a priority emergency transmission from New Harvest Colony. Requesting immediate contact with Admiral Stone. Stand by, Array 7, came the reply. Within minutes, Admiral Patricia. Stone was on the line. Ryan had served under Admiral Stone during the Mars conflicts, and he knew she was one of the few officers who would act quickly when lives were at stake. What do you have, Commander Blake? The Admiral's voice was crisp and focused. Ryan transmitted the distress signal and his analysis. Ma'am, this message is a week old. The colonists may already be dead, or they may be running out of time. The signal mentions unknown alien forces. There was a brief pause before Admiral Stone responded. Commander, I want you to send an immediate response to New Harvest. Tell them help is coming. Then get me everything we know about that system and the surrounding area. Yes, ma'am, but Admiral, our nearest ships are in the Sol system. Even with our fastest vessels, it would take weeks to reach Kepler 442. Let me worry about that, Commander. Just send the response. Ryan composed and transmitted a reply message. New Harvest Colony, this is Earth Defense Force. Your distress call received. Military assistance is being deployed. Maintain position and stay hidden. Help is coming. As Ryan sent the message into the void, hoping it would reach the desperate colonists, Admiral Stone was already mobilizing the most ambitious rescue mission in human history. In the secure briefing room at Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Stone faced her senior officers. The room was filled with the best military minds humanity had to offer, but what she was about to propose had never been attempted before. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 800 of our people trapped on a world under alien attack. The situation is desperate, and we are their only hope. Captain Greg Turner, commander of the flagship UES Valiant, studied the tactical display. Admiral, Kepler 442 is 300 light-years away. Our fastest ships would take at least 6 weeks to reach the system using conventional hyperspace, which is why we are not using conventional methods, Admiral Stone replied. Project Stormgate has been developing experimental faster-than-light technology for the past 2 years. Today, we find out if it works. The room fell silent. Project Stormgate was classified at the highest levels, known only to a handful of officers. The technology promised to reduce travel time between distant systems from weeks to days, but it had never been tested over such distances. Dr. Helen Price, the project's lead scientist, activated a holographic display. The Stormgate drive works by creating artificial wormholes through hyperspace. Our simulations suggest we can reach Kepler 442 in approximately 18 hours. However, the power requirements are enormous, and there are significant risks. What kind of risks? Asked Captain Nicole Adams of the UES Thunder. The drive systems could overload and destroy the ship, Dr. Price explained. There is also the possibility of spatial displacement. We might emerge at the wrong location, or even in the wrong time period. Admiral Stone looked around the table at her officers. I will not order anyone to take this risk, but those colonists are our people, and they are depending on us. Captain Turner was the first to speak. The Valiant is ready, Admiral. One by one, the other officers volunteered their ships and crews. Within an hour, Admiral Stone had assembled a fleet of 12 vessels, each equipped with the experimental Stormgate drive systems. The fleet included heavy cruisers like the UES, Valiant and UES Thunder, fast destroyers, and specialized assault ships. Each vessel carried Marines, fighters, and the most advanced weapons technology Earth had to offer. The Vorthak are known to be aggressive and technologically advanced, Admiral Stone briefed her captains. But they have never faced human military doctrine. We have advantages they do not expect. Our willingness to take risks, our adaptability, and our absolute refusal to abandon our own people. As the fleet prepared for departure, technicians worked frantically to install the Stormgate. Drives and load supplies? The experimental technology required massive amounts of power, meaning the ships would have limited life support and weapons capability during the journey. Captain Dan Roberts of the destroyer UES Lightning voiced what everyone was thinking. Admiral, if this does not work, we could lose 12 ships and their crews trying to save 800 colonists. Captain, if we do not try, we lose those 800 people for certain, Admiral Stone replied. And we send a message to every human colony in the galaxy that Earth will abandon them when they need us most. 6 hours after receiving the distress signal, the Earth Defense Fleet departed from Luna Station. The ships formed up in a precise formation, their Stormgate drives charging with power that made the space around them shimmer and bend. All ships. This is Admiral Stone. Today we prove that no human stands alone in the darkness. All ships. Engage Stormgate drives in 3, 2, 1. Execute. Reality twisted around the fleet as the experimental drives activated. Space folded in on itself, creating tunnels through hyperspace that should not have existed. The ships disappeared from normal space, racing through artificial wormholes toward a distant world where their people waited in the darkness. Back on New Harvest, Amy Rodriguez was monitoring the communication equipment when the response arrived. The message was brief, but filled with hope. New Harvest Colony, this is Earth Defense Force. Your distress call received. Military assistance is being deployed. Maintain position and stay hidden. Help is coming. Amy stared at the message, hardly believing what she was reading. She ran through the tunnels to find Lisa Murphy, her heart pounding with excitement. "Lisa! Lisa, you have to see this!" Amy shouted as she burst into the shelter's main area. Lisa looked up from where she was helping Dr. Mitchell treat a sick child. "Amy, what is it?" "We got a response. Earth Defense Force is sending help." The shelter fell silent as Amy's words sank in. Then someone began to cheer, and the sound spread throughout the underground complex. For the first time in over a week, the colonists of New Harvest had hope. But as they celebrated in their underground refuge, none of them could imagine the storm that was racing through space toward their world, carrying with it the full fury of humanity unleashed. High Admiral Korthak stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Dominion Spear, watching his fleet complete their conquest of the human colony world. The operation had been proceeding exactly according to plan. The primitive humans had offered no meaningful resistance, and his ground forces were systematically eliminating the remaining survivors. Korthak was a veteran commander of the Vorthak Imperium, with over 50 successful conquests to his name. This human colony was just another minor obstacle to be removed as the Imperium expanded its territory. The world would make an excellent staging base for future operations in this sector. "Status report," Korthak commanded his bridge crew. "All major surface installations have been destroyed," reported his tactical officer. "Ground forces estimate fewer than 1,000 humans remain, hiding in underground facilities. They should be eliminated within 2 days." Korthak nodded with satisfaction. The humans were weak, just like all the other species the Vorthak had conquered. They built their little colonies in remote systems thinking distance would protect them. They were always wrong. "Sir, we are detecting an anomaly at the edge of the system," called out the sensor operator, his voice carrying a note of confusion. "What kind of anomaly?" Korthak asked, moving to the sensor station. "Unknown energy signatures, sir. Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace, but the readings are unlike anything in our databases." Korthak studied the sensor display. 12 objects had appeared at the system's edge, moving toward them at high speed. The energy signatures were indeed strange. They showed technology that was both primitive and advanced, in ways that made no sense. "Could these be reinforcements for the humans?" asked the tactical officer. "Impossible," Korthak replied. "Intelligence? Reports indicate that human military forces rarely operate beyond their core systems. They lack the capability for rapid interstellar deployment." But even as he spoke, Korthak felt a growing unease. The approaching ships were accelerating to attack speed, and their formation suggested military discipline. Captain Greg Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant as his fleet dropped out of Storm Gate Transit. The experimental drives had worked perfectly, delivering them to Kepler 442 in just under 18 hours. But the sight that greeted them made Turner's jaw clench with anger. The Vorthak fleet was spread across the system, like a cancer, with dozens of large warships surrounding the colony world. Sensor readings showed extensive damage to the surface installations, and there were no signs of human activity above ground. "Communications. Open a channel to all ships," Turner ordered. "This is Captain Turner to all vessels. We are looking at a full-scale invasion force. Our people are down there somewhere, and we are going to get them out. All ships prepare for immediate attack. Admiral Stone's voice came through the fleet communications. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone. The enemy has had days to prepare, and they outnumber us 3-1. But they have never faced human military doctrine. Show them what happens when you threaten our people. All ships, attack formation Alpha. Engage at will." The human fleet split into 3 groups, approaching the Vorthak formation from different angles. The UES Valiant led the center group, with the UES Thunder and UES Lightning flanking it. The destroyers UES Storm and UES Fury raced ahead as scouts, their smaller size allowing them to close distance quickly. On the Dominion Spear, Korthak watched the approaching human ships with growing alarm. Their tactical formation was aggressive and unconventional, showing a willingness to take risks that no civilized species would consider. "Sir, the human ships are closing fast," reported the tactical officer. "They are not responding to our warning. Transmissions." "All ships, defensive formation," Korthak ordered. These humans must be desperate to attempt an attack with such a small force. The Vorthak fleet began to reposition itself, bringing their heavy weapons to bear on the approaching humans. But the human ships continued their aggressive approach, showing no signs of caution or hesitation. Captain Nicole Adams gripped the command chair of the UES Thunder as her ship raced toward the enemy formation. "Weapons, target their flagship. Engineering, give me everything the engines can handle." "Captain, we are pushing the engines beyond safe parameters," her chief engineer warned. "Good," Adams replied. "Today we find out what these ships can really do." The first exchange of fire lit up the space around New Harvest like deadly fireworks. Vorthak energy weapons lanced out toward the human ships, but the humans had already begun evasive maneuvers that seemed random but were actually carefully calculated. The UES Storm, commanded by Captain Alex Morgan, rolled and twisted through. A barrage of enemy fire, its experimental plasma cannons charging for their first shot. When the weapons fired, the brilliant blue beams cut through a Vorthak cruiser's shields like they were made of paper. "Direct hit!" shouted the weapons officer. "Enemy shields are down. Massive damage to their hull." The Vorthak had never seen weapons quite like the ones the humans were using. Human military technology had developed along different lines from other species, focusing on raw power and adaptability rather than elegant efficiency. Korthak stared in shock as he watched one of his heavy cruisers explode under human fire. "How is this possible? Our intelligence report said human weapons were primitive." "Sir, their technology appears to be based on completely different principles," his science officer reported. "Their plasma weapons are far more powerful than our projections indicated." The battle became a chaotic melee as human ships darted between the larger Vorthak vessels like angry wasps. The UES Lightning, under Captain Dan Roberts, launched a spread of fusion missiles that overwhelmed a Vorthak destroyer's point defense systems. But it was the human tactics that truly horrified the Vorthak. Human ships would ram through enemy formations, trading paint with vessels 3 times their size. They would sacrifice their own shields and armor to get close enough for devastating point-blank attacks. Captain Turner watched as the UES Fury deliberately collided with a Vorthak heavy cruiser, both ships exploding in a ball of plasma. But the sacrifice allowed 2 other human ships to flank the enemy formation and attack from behind. "These humans fight like they have no fear of death," whispered a Vorthak officer on the Dominion Spear's bridge. "They do not fight to preserve their ships," Korthak realized with growing horror. "They fight only to win." The human fleet was taking terrible losses, but they were inflicting even more damage on the Vorthak. Human Marines, led by Colonel Steve Martinez, were actually boarding damaged enemy vessels and fighting hand-to-hand in the corridors. Admiral Stone coordinated the battle from her command ship, pushing her fleet to take increasingly desperate risks. All ships focus fire on their flagship. If we can take out their command structure, the rest of the fleet may retreat. The UES Valiant and 3 other ships concentrated their fire on the Dominion Spear, their combined weapons overwhelming the massive vessel's defenses. Explosions ripped through Korthak's flagship as human plasma weapons tore into its hull. "Sir, we have massive system failures," reported Korthak's damage control officer. "Shields are failing, and we have fires on 7 decks." Korthak looked around his burning bridge and realized something that chilled him to his core. The humans were not fighting a normal battle. They were fighting with the fury of a species that would rather die than see their own people enslaved. "All ships, withdraw to the outer system," Korthak ordered. "We will regroup and—" His words were cut off as another human plasma barrage struck his ship. The Dominion Spear shuddered under the impact, and Korthak knew his fleet was beaten. As the surviving Vorthak ships began their retreat, Captain Turner opened communications to the surface of New Harvest. "New Harvest Colony, this is Captain Turner of Earth Defense Force. The orbital threat has been neutralized. Prepare for ground assault operations. We are coming to get you." In the underground shelters, Lisa Murphy listened to the transmission, with tears in her eyes. Above them, the thunder of battle was fading, replaced by the sound of human dropships entering the atmosphere. The storm had arrived, and it had brought salvation. Master Sergeant Tony Williams crouched behind the twisted remains of a harvester machine, watching the Vorthak patrol move through what had once been New Harvest's main street. His squad of 12 Marines had been on the ground for only 30 minutes, but they had already learned to respect the enemy's advanced sensors and weapons. The drop from orbit had been rough. 3 of the 6 dropships had taken heavy fire from Vorthak ground defenses, and 1 had crashed into the mining district. But the Marines had made it down, and now they had a job to do. "Sergeant Williams, this is Colonel Martinez," came the voice through his comm unit. "What is your status?" "We have eyes on enemy patrols, sir," Williams replied quietly. "They appear to be conducting systematic searches of the ruins. No sign of our people yet." "Copy that, Sergeant. Intelligence suggests the colonists are hiding in underground facilities. Your mission is to make contact and assess their situation. Ground teams are engaging enemy positions throughout the colony." Williams signaled to his squad to move forward. They advanced carefully through the debris-filled streets, using the destroyed buildings for cover. The Vorthak had been thorough. In their destruction, almost every structure was damaged or completely destroyed. Corporal Lisa Chen, the squad's communications specialist, monitored the emergency frequencies as they moved. "Sergeant, I am picking up a weak signal on the colony's emergency channel. It is coming from underground, maybe 2 blocks north of our position." "Good work, Chen," Williams said. "Lead the way." The squad moved through the ruins toward the signal source. As they got closer, they could see that the Vorthak had tried to seal the underground entrances with some kind of metal foam, but the seals looked incomplete. "They know the colonists are down there," observed Private Jake Stone, the squad's youngest member. "Why have they not finished the job?" "Maybe they want prisoners," suggested Corporal Maria Santos, the squad medic. "Or maybe they are just taking their time." Williams studied the sealed entrance through his tactical scope. "Chen, can you boost that emergency signal? Try to make contact." Chen adjusted her equipment and opened a channel. "New Harvest Colony, this is Earth Defense Force Marine Squad 7. We are at your location. How do we get down there?" The response came immediately, filled with excitement and relief. Earth Defense Force, this is Amy Rodriguez, Colony Communications. Thank God you are here. The main entrance is sealed, but there is a maintenance hatch about 50 meters east of your position. We can guide you through the tunnel system. Williams felt a surge of satisfaction. After days of wondering if any colonists had survived, they finally had contact. Rodriguez, this is Sergeant Williams. We are coming down. How many survivors do you have? Approximately 600 people in the main shelter complex, Amy replied. We have wounded and sick, and our supplies are running very low. As the Marines located the maintenance hatch and prepared to descend, Williams heard weapons fire in the distance. Other Marine units were engaging Vorthak positions throughout the colony, drawing attention away from the rescue operation. Thatabo. Maintenance tunnels were narrow and dark, barely wide enough for a person in full combat gear. Williams led his squad through the passages, following Amy's directions through their comlink. Turn left at the next junction, Amy's voice guided them. The tunnel will open up in about 20 meters. When they finally emerged into the main shelter area, Williams was struck by what he saw. Hundreds of people were crowded into a space that was meant for maybe 50. The air was thick and stale, and many of the colonists looked sick and malnourished. But their faces lit up with hope when they saw the Marines. Lisa Murphy pushed through the crowd to greet them. Sergeant Williams, I am Lisa Murphy, the colony administrator. I cannot tell you how good it is to see you. Williams looked around the crowded shelter, quickly assessing the situation. Ma'am, we are here to get you out. But first, I need to know about enemy positions and any intelligence you might have. Jake Collins stepped forward, still wearing his mining gear after more than a week underground. Sergeant, I have been leading small groups to the surface for supply runs. I know where the Vorthak have set up their positions and patrol routes. Show me, Williams said, spreading a tactical map on a nearby table. Jake pointed out Vorthak defensive positions, supply depots, and command posts throughout the colony. They have maybe 300 ground troops, but they are spread out. They seem to think they have already won. They thought wrong, Williams said grimly. He activated his comm unit. Colonel Martinez, this is Sergeant Williams. I have contact with approximately 600 survivors in the main shelter complex, requesting immediate evacuation support. Copy that, Sergeant, came the reply. Be advised we are meeting stiff resistance at several key positions. It may take time to clear an evacuation route. Dr. Karen Mitchell approached Williams with a list in her hand. Sergeant, I have 47 people who need immediate medical attention. Some of them cannot be moved without proper equipment. Williams nodded. Doc, we have medical support coming, but right now, I need to know who among your people can fight. The question surprised the colonists. Jake Collins was the first to answer. Most of us are not soldiers, Sergeant. We are farmers and scientists. Today, you are survivors, Williams replied, and we are going to teach you how to stay alive. Over the next hour, Williams and his Marines began organizing the colonists into a fighting force. They distributed weapons and ammunition that had been brought down in the dropships and began teaching basic combat techniques. Corporal Santos worked with Dr. Mitchell to set up a proper medical station in the shelter. Doc, we have combat medics with the main force, but you know these people better than anyone. I need your help to keep them alive. Amy Rodriguez worked with Chen to establish better communications with the surface forces. Can you patch me into the fleet communications? Amy asked. I want to coordinate our signals intelligence with your tactical operations. You got it, Chen replied, impressed by Amy's technical skills. With your knowledge of the colony systems and our combat communications, we can really help the ground teams. Jake Collins proved to be particularly valuable as a guide and tactical advisor. He had spent years exploring every tunnel, cave, and maintenance passage in the colony. Sergeant, there is a way to get behind the main Vorthak position, he explained, pointing to his map. It goes through the old mining tunnels, but it comes up right behind their command post. Williams studied the route. How many people can move through there at once? Maybe a squad if they are careful, Jake replied. But it is dangerous. Some of those tunnels have not been used in years. Jake, you are coming with us, Williams decided. I need someone who knows those passages. As the Marines prepared for their assault on the Vorthak positions, other colonists stepped forward to volunteer. Peter Hayes, a maintenance engineer, offered to help sabotage enemy equipment. Linda Carter, who had worked in colony logistics, provided detailed maps of all the storage facilities and power systems. Sergeant, these people have been through hell, observed Corporal Stone, but they are not giving up. Williams looked around at the colonists, who were now armed and organized. Into teams. They were scared, but they were angry too. The Vorthak had destroyed their homes and killed their friends. Now they had a chance to fight back. Listen up, everyone. Williams addressed the group. We are going to take back your colony. You know, this place better than any enemy ever could. That is our advantage. We fight smart, we fight together, and we get everyone out alive. Above them, the battle for New Harvest continued to rage. Marine assault teams were fighting building-to-building combat with Vorthak ground forces, while human fighters provided close air support from orbit. But in the underground tunnels beneath the colony, something new was happening. The colonists of New Harvest were no longer just survivors hiding in the dark. They were becoming fighters, armed with human weapons and trained by human Marines. The Vorthak had expected to face only a few hundred frightened farmers. Instead, they were about to face 600 angry humans who knew every secret passage and hidden route in their home. The thunder was coming from underground, and it was going to shake the very foundations of the colony the aliens thought they had conquered. Jake Collins led the way through the abandoned mining tunnels, his helmet light cutting through the darkness ahead of Sergeant Williams and his Marine squad. Behind them, 50 armed colonists moved as quietly as they could through the narrow passages. How much further? Williams whispered into his comm. Maybe 200 meters, Jake replied softly. The tunnel opens up right behind their main command post. But, Sergeant, there is something you should know about these passages. What is that? They connect to the colony's main power grid. If we can access the control systems, we might be able to shut down power to the entire Vorthak operation. Williams felt a surge of excitement. Jake, you just became my favorite colonist. Above ground, the battle for New Harvest was reaching a critical point. Captain Dan Roberts had landed with the main Marine force and was coordinating attacks on Vorthak positions throughout the colony, but the aliens had established strong defensive positions, and progress was slow. Colonel Martinez, this is Captain Roberts, he reported over the tactical channel. We are meeting heavy resistance at the main square. The enemy has dug in deeper than we expected. Copy that, Roberts, came Martinez's reply from his command post. We have Marine units moving through the underground tunnels. If they can hit the enemy from behind, it should break their defensive line. In the tunnels, Jake led the assault team to a junction where several passages met. This is it, he said, pointing to a sealed access panel. Through here is the colony's main power control room. The Vorthak command post is maybe 50 meters beyond that. Williams examined the panel. Can you get us through? Jake smiled for the first time in days. Sergeant, I helped build this place. I can get you through anything. As Jake worked on the access panel, Amy Rodriguez coordinated with the surface teams from her position in the shelter. She had established communication links with all the Marine units and was providing real-time intelligence on enemy movements. Captain Roberts, this is Amy Rodriguez in the underground shelter, she transmitted. I am tracking enemy communications. They are expecting a frontal assault on the main square, but they have no idea about the tunnel operations. Excellent work, Rodriguez, Roberts replied. Keep monitoring their transmissions and let us know about any changes in their deployment. Dr. Karen Mitchell was busy treating wounded Marines who had been brought down to the shelter. Working alongside Corporal Santos, she had set up a field hospital that was saving lives. Doctor, we have 3 more wounded coming down, Santos reported. 2 with plasma burns, 1 with shrapnel wounds. Bring them here, Mitchell replied, already preparing medical supplies. How are our people doing up there? Better than expected, Santos said. Your colonists are proving to be natural fighters, that Jake Collins has been invaluable as a guide, and some of your engineers are helping our demolitions teams disable enemy equipment. In the power control room, Jake had successfully opened the access panel and was studying the colony's electrical systems. Sergeant, I can cut power to specific sectors of the colony. If I shut down power to the main square, it will disable the Vorthak defensive systems. Williams nodded. Do it, but wait for my signal. We want to coordinate this with the surface. Assault! The assault team moved through the final section of tunnel, emerging in a maintenance area directly behind the Vorthak command post. Through ventilation grates, they could see alien soldiers moving around their equipment, completely unaware of the threat below them. Williams activated his comm unit. Colonel Martinez, this is Sergeant Williams. We are in position behind the enemy command post. We have 50 fighters ready to go, plus the ability to cut their power. Waiting for your go signal. Outstanding, Sergeant, Martinez replied. Captain Roberts, are your teams ready for the main assault? Affirmative, sir. All units in position. Then let us finish this. All units, commence attack in 30 seconds. Williams counted down the seconds, watching the Vorthak soldiers through the grates. These aliens had spent days systematically destroying the colony, hunting the colonists like animals. Now it was payback time. Jake, cut the power. Now! Jake threw the switches that shut down electrical power to the main square. Instantly, the Vorthak defensive systems went dark, leaving the alien soldiers confused and exposed. Go! 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 Williams shouted, leading his team up through the maintenance hatches. The assault was swift and devastating. The Marines emerged from below while the colonists attacked from the tunnels, catching the Vorthak completely by surprise. The aliens had been expecting an attack from the front, not from underneath their own position. Peter Hayes, the maintenance engineer, used his knowledge of the colony's systems to disable Vorthak equipment faster than the aliens could repair it. Linda Carter led a team of colonists in capturing the enemy supply depot, cutting off their ammunition and medical supplies. "This is impossible!" shouted the Vorthak commander as his forces were overwhelmed from multiple directions. How are they attacking from underground? But the aliens had no answer for human ingenuity and determination. The colonists knew every pipe, every tunnel, every maintenance access in their home. They appeared from vents, from storage areas, from passages the Vorthak never knew existed. Captain Roberts led the main assault force in a frontal attack on the weakened alien positions. With their power systems down and their rear areas under attack, the Vorthak defense collapsed rapidly. All units, this is Captain Roberts. Main square is secure. Enemy forces are retreating toward the landing fields. In orbit, Admiral Stone coordinated the final phase of the battle. The remaining Vorthak ships were attempting to evacuate their ground forces, but human fighters were making that difficult. All fighter squadrons, this is Admiral Stone. Do not let any enemy ships escape. We want them to carry word back to their empire about what happens when you attack human colonies. Commander Helen Price led her fighter squadron in attacks on the Vorthak transport ships. "This is for every colonist you killed," she said as her plasma cannons destroyed another enemy vessel. Back in the colony, the tide of battle had completely turned. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission had become a total victory. The Vorthak forces were either dead, captured, or fleeing in disorder. Lisa Murphy emerged from the underground shelters for the first time in over a week, squinting in the sunlight as she surveyed her destroyed colony. Marine engineers were already working to restore power and communications, while medics treated the wounded. "Administrator Murphy," Captain Roberts approached her with a smile. "It is an honor to meet you. Your people fought with incredible courage." Lisa looked around at her colonists, many of them still carrying the weapons they had used in the final battle. "Captain, we learned something important today. We learned that we are not just farmers and scientists. We are human beings, and nobody has the right to take our home away from us." Jake Collins walked up, covered in dirt and grime, but grinning widely. "Lisa, the power grid is back online. Amy has communications working, and Dr. Mitchell says all the wounded are stable." "What about our losses?" Lisa asked quietly. 17 colonists killed during the initial attack," Captain Roberts reported. "But everyone who made it to the shelter survived. Your emergency procedures saved hundreds of lives." Amy Rodriguez joined them, carrying a communication device. "I have been monitoring alien transmissions. The surviving Vorthak ships are fleeing the system, and they are sending panic reports to their fleet command." "What kind of reports?" Admiral Stone's voice came over the comm system. "They are describing human forces as storm warriors, who fight with no regard for death," Amy replied. "One transmission called us the species that emerges from the ground. Like demons." Admiral Stone's laugh could be heard through the speakers. "Let them spread that word. Every alien empire in this galaxy should know what happens when you threaten human colonies." As the sun set over New Harvest, the colonists began the long process of rebuilding their home. But they were no longer the same people who had hidden in underground shelters just days before. They had discovered something about themselves, something that their attackers had learned too late. Humans might be peaceful farmers and scientists when left alone, but when threatened, they became something far more dangerous. They became a people who would fight for every inch of their home, who would emerge from the darkness to strike their enemies, and who would never, ever give up. The tide had turned, and with it, the balance of power in this corner of the galaxy had shifted forever. Admiral Patricia Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, watching the last Vorthak ships flee toward the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The alien fleet had been reduced from over 40 vessels to fewer than 15, and those survivors were running as fast as their engines could carry them. "Admiral, the enemy ships are attempting to reach the hyperspace jump point," reported Captain Turner. "They will escape the system in approximately 40 minutes. Stone studied the tactical display, her mind racing through the implications. The Vorthak Empire would not stop with this defeat. They would regroup, bring reinforcements, and eventually return to finish what they had started, unless she made sure they could not. All ships, this is Admiral Stone. We are going after them. The bridge fell silent. Pursuing a retreating enemy beyond their own system was a significant escalation, one that could have far-reaching consequences. Admiral, Captain Turner said carefully, our orders were to rescue the colonists and secure the system. Pursuing the enemy fleet into Vorthak space could be seen as an act of aggression. Stone turned to face her captain. Greg, those aliens came here to commit genocide. They systematically murdered civilians and destroyed everything our people built. If we let them escape, they will report back to their empire that humans are weak and can be attacked without consequences. She activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Stone. The enemy fleet is retreating, but they are not defeated. If we let them escape, they will return with reinforcements to finish what they started. Today, we send a message that will be heard throughout this galaxy. You do not attack human colonies and walk away. The response from her captains was immediate and unanimous. Every ship in the fleet signaled their readiness to pursue the enemy. Fleet acceleration to maximum burn, Stone ordered. We end this today. The human fleet surged forward in pursuit of the fleeing Vorthak ships. The chase would take them beyond human space, into territory controlled by an empire that had never known defeat on their own ground. On the surface of New Harvest, Major Julie Foster was coordinating the final cleanup operations. Her Marines had secured the remaining Vorthak equipment and were processing alien prisoners. But the Major's attention was focused on the 3 Vorthak vessels that had been captured intact during the battle. Sergeant Williams, what is the status on those captured ships? She asked. Williams consulted his data pad. Ma'am, we have engineering teams going through them now. The aliens use some kind of biological control systems that are hard to understand. But our tech specialists think they can figure out how to operate them. Good. I want those ships ready to fly within the hour. Ma'am, are we planning to use alien vessels? Foster smiled grimly. Major, the Admiral is chasing the enemy fleet into their own territory. If she needs support, I intend to provide it, even if I have to fly an alien ship to do it. In space, the pursuit had become a deadly game of cat and mouse. The Vorthak ships were faster in normal space, but the human vessels had superior acceleration and more aggressive commanders. Captain Alex Morgan pushed the UES Tempest beyond safe operating limits, slowly gaining on the enemy rear guard. Engineering, I need more speed. Captain, we are already redlining the fusion reactors, came the reply. If we push them any harder, we risk a containment breach. Then we risk it, Morgan replied. Those aliens killed civilians. They do not get to escape. The first contact came as the fleeing Vorthak ships reached the outer edge of the system. Captain Nicole Adams in the UES Thunder managed to close within weapons range of a damaged alien cruiser. Target their engines, Adams ordered. Disable them, do not destroy them. The Admiral wants prisoners. The Thunder's plasma cannons struck the alien ship's engine section, crippling it and forcing it to drop out of formation. 2 other Vorthak vessels turned back to assist their damaged comrade, and suddenly the pursuit became a running battle. All ships, engage at will, Admiral Stone commanded. Show them what human determination looks like. The battle stretched across 3 star systems as the human fleet pursued the retreating Vorthak forces. At each engagement, the aliens lost more ships, while the humans pressed forward with relentless determination. Captain Dan Roberts in the UES Lightning led a flanking maneuver that cut off the enemy's escape route in the Sigma Draconis system. Admiral, we have them trapped. They cannot reach the hyperspace jump point without going through us. Excellent work, Captain. All ships, move in for final engagement. The last battle took place in the asteroid belt of an unnamed system, 40 light-years from where the conflict had begun. The surviving Vorthak ships made their final stand among the drifting rocks, using the asteroids for cover as they fought desperately against the pursuing human fleet. But human tactical doctrine had evolved during the long pursuit. The Marines had studied captured Vorthak technology and learned their weaknesses. Captain Turner coordinated attacks that exploited gaps in alien defensive systems. "Their shields have a cycling frequency," reported the Thunder's science officer. "If we time our attacks correctly, we can punch through their defenses." The final Vorthak ships fell one by one, overwhelmed by human tactics they had never encountered before. The alien commanders, trained in traditional fleet warfare, had no answer for human unpredictability and aggression. As the last enemy vessel exploded in the asteroid field, Admiral Stone opened communications on all frequencies, knowing that the transmission would be picked up by Vorthak listening posts throughout the sector. "This is Admiral Patricia Stone of the Earth Defense Force. The Vorthak fleet that attacked New Harvest Colony has been destroyed. Let this be a message to all who would threaten human worlds. We will pursue you to the ends of the galaxy if necessary. Earth protects its own." The message was transmitted in multiple languages, including Vorthak, ensuring that it would be understood by anyone who received it. Back on New Harvest, the colonists listened to the Admiral's broadcast with mixed emotions. They had been saved, but they also understood that their quiet life on the frontier was over forever. "What happens now?" Amy Rodriguez asked Lisa Murphy as they stood in the ruins of the main square. "Now we rebuild," Lisa replied. "But we rebuild differently. We rebuild as people who know that help will come when we need it, and that humanity does not abandon its own." Jake Collins approached them, carrying construction plans in his hands. "Lisa, the Marine engineers want to help us redesign the colony defenses. They are talking about building fortifications and establishing a permanent military presence." Lisa nodded slowly. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, and we have learned that we cannot depend on isolation to protect us. If Earth is willing to help us build defenses, then we should accept." Dr. Karen Mitchell joined them, her medical bag slung over her shoulder. "I have been talking with the fleet medical officers. They want to establish a proper hospital here, one that can serve as a medical center for this entire sector." "It sounds like New Harvest is going to become much more than just a farming colony," Amy observed. "Yes," Lisa agreed. "We are going to become a fortress, a symbol that humans will fight for their people, no matter how far from home they are." In space, the victorious human fleet was beginning the long journey back to New Harvest. They carried with them captured alien technology, prisoners for interrogation, and most importantly, a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity had announced its presence as a major power, not through diplomacy or trade, but through the most ancient and effective method possible: military victory against a superior enemy. The Vorthak Empire would think twice before attacking another human colony. Other alien species would take note of what had happened in the Kepler 442 system, and human colonies throughout the galaxy would sleep a little more soundly, knowing that Earth would come for them if they called. The reckoning was complete, and the balance of power in this corner of space had shifted forever. 3 months after the battle, Ambassador Claire Thompson stepped off the transport shuttle onto the rebuilt landing pad of New Harvest Colony. The scene that greeted her was dramatically different from the reports she had read about the devastation that had occurred here. Where once there had been simple farming buildings, now stood a mixture of civilian structures and military fortifications. Human engineers had worked alongside the colonists to create something new, a colony that was both a home and a fortress. Lisa Murphy was there to greet her, but the woman who approached was not the same frightened administrator who had hidden in underground shelters. This Lisa Murphy carried herself with confidence and authority, wearing practical clothes that showed she was still very much involved in the day-to-day work of rebuilding. "Ambassador Thompson, welcome to New Harvest," Lisa said, extending her hand. "I hope your journey was comfortable." "Thank you, Administrator Murphy. I have been looking forward to seeing what you have accomplished here." Claire looked around at the busy construction sites and the mixture of civilian and military personnel. "The reports I received hardly do justice to what I am seeing." Lisa smiled with pride. "We learned some important lessons about survival. Come, let me show you around." As they walked through the colony, Claire could see the evidence of the battle everywhere, but also the evidence of human determination to rebuild. The main square, which had been destroyed in the fighting, was now larger and more impressive than before. "We decided to make the new square a memorial," Lisa explained, pointing to a wall covered with names. "These are the colonists who died in the initial attack, and the Marines who gave their lives to save us." Claire read some of the names, feeling the weight of what had happened here. "Administrator, I want you to know that Earth has been closely following the developments here. The courage shown by your people has become an inspiration throughout human space." Jake Collins joined them, now wearing the uniform of the New Harvest Colonial Defense Force. The former mining engineer had become the colony's military coordinator, working with Earth Defense Force advisors to establish proper defenses. "Ambassador, would you like to see our new defensive systems?" Jake offered. They toured the military installations that had been built around the colony, plasma cannon emplacements, shielded bunkers, and an underground command center that could coordinate the defense of the entire system. "Impressive," Claire noted. "But I understand you have not had to use them." "Word has spread," Jake replied with satisfaction. "We have had no hostile contacts since the Vorthak attack. It seems that other species in this sector have decided that human colonies are not easy targets." Amy Rodriguez met them at the communications center, which had been expanded into a major facility that served the entire sector. "Ambassador, we now monitor subspace communications across 12 systems. We have become the early warning network for this entire region of space." "And what are you hearing?" Claire asked. Amy activated a holographic display showing communication traffic patterns. "The Vorthak Empire has withdrawn all their forces to their core systems. They have not made any aggressive moves against anyone since the battle here. Other species are being much more careful about their territorial expansion." Dr. Karen Mitchell approached them from the medical center, which had indeed become the regional hospital that the fleet medical officers had proposed. "Ambassador, we are now treating patients from 6 different worlds. Our reputation for medical excellence has spread almost as fast as our reputation for military effectiveness." Claire was impressed by what she saw, but she had come to New Harvest for a specific purpose. That evening, she met with Lisa and the other colony leaders in the new council chambers. "The reason I am here," Claire began, "is to discuss the Galactic Council's response to what happened in this system." Lisa leaned forward with interest. "We have heard rumors, but no official word. The Council is uncomfortable with how Earth handled the situation," Claire said carefully. "They feel that our pursuit of the Vorthak fleet beyond this system was an act of aggression that could destabilize the region." Jake snorted with disgust. "The Council did not lift a finger to help us when we were dying. Now they want to criticize Earth for actually saving us?" That is essentially the position Earth has taken, Claire replied. We have informed the Council that we consider the defense of human colonies to be a purely human affair. We are withdrawing from several Council committees and establishing our own mutual defense agreements with species who share our values. Amy looked up from her data pad. What does this mean for colonies like ours? It means you are no longer alone out here, Claire said firmly. Earth is establishing a permanent military presence in this sector. The UES Guardian, a heavy cruiser, will be stationed here permanently. Admiral Stone has been promoted and given command of the new Outer Colonies Defense Fleet. Lisa felt a surge of satisfaction. Admiral Stone deserves that promotion. She saved our lives. There is more, Claire continued. Earth is offering full membership in the new Human Colonial Alliance to any colony that wants it. This would include military protection, trade agreements, and shared technology development. What are the obligations? Jake asked, his military training making him think about the costs as well as the benefits. Each member colony would contribute to the common defense according to their abilities. For New Harvest, that would likely mean serving as a regional communications and medical center, which you are already doing. The colonists exchanged glances, but Lisa could see that the decision was unanimous. Ambassador, New Harvest accepts membership in the Human Colonial Alliance. Claire smiled. I hoped you would say that. There are already 27 colonies that have joined, with more applications coming in every week. Later that evening, Claire stood on the observation deck of the new administrative building, looking out at the lights of the rebuilt colony. Jake joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Quite a view, he said, handing her a cup. It is amazing what you have accomplished here, Claire replied. When I read the initial reports about the attack, I honestly did not think anyone would survive. Jake was quiet for a moment. We almost did not. If Earth had not responded so quickly, if Admiral Stone had not been willing to take those risks. He shrugged. We learned something about ourselves, though. We learned that we are stronger than we thought. The entire galaxy has learned that, Claire said. The story of New Harvest has become legend in human space. Children are learning about the colonists who fought back from underground tunnels and the admiral who crossed 300 light-years in 18 hours to save strangers. We were not strangers, Jake corrected. We were family. That is what the aliens never understood. Attack one human colony, and you attack all of humanity. Claire nodded. That is the message Earth is sending throughout the galaxy now. We protect our own. As the 2 humans stood looking out at their rebuilt world, similar scenes were being repeated throughout human space. Colonies that had once felt isolated and vulnerable now knew that they were part of something larger, something that would fight for them when they needed help. The Galactic Council continued to debate and discuss, but humanity had moved beyond their bureaucracy. Earth was building its own alliances, based not on politics but on shared values and mutual protection. The Vorthak Empire remained quiet in their core systems, their military leaders studying the reports from New Harvest and trying to understand how their superior force had been so completely defeated. The answer was simple, but they struggled to accept it. They had faced an enemy that fought not just for territory or resources, but for family. On New Harvest, children who had hidden in underground shelters during the attack now played in parks that were protected by defensive systems. They learned the story of how Earth's warriors had come through the darkness to save them, and they grew up knowing that they were part of something greater than themselves. The storm had passed, but its effects would be felt throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had announced its presence as a major power and had established a simple principle that would guide their expansion among the stars. No human stands alone in the darkness. They thought help would never come. But when it arrived, it had come like a storm, reshaping everything in its path and leaving behind a new order based on the simple truth that family protects family, no matter how far apart they may be. The age of human expansion among the stars had truly begun.